I'm so happy that you might have read on the news that the Pakistan government have taken a very decision of having this crypto council. That regulation will help so much. And then you'll start seeing the fatwa, how they begin to now adopt and create framework, a Sharia framework. Really, we should be the ones leading the conversation. Why does it take 10 years for us to understand this? If you look at what's happened recently in the markets, how there was a complete bloodbath. Billions are wiped from the markets. Why? Because of the over leverage and everything else. The meme coins, it's impacted the whole industry. They have to spend 15 hours earning money, and then you tell them to come to the masjid, they won't want to come. Why? Because they're tired. So the way we understand the entire thing is wrong. I've written a book called Prophetic Finance and Economics. My entire thesis and discussion is we need to bring the Sunnah into our finance. That's why I like to use the word Sharia powered. Sharia is more than just legalities. Sharia involves akhlaq and the Sunnah.
If you look at our data, 57% of people on our channel have not subscribed. यानी अगर आप नसीहा इंस्टीट्यूट के काम को पसंद करते हैं, सुनते हैं, तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि please subscribe. Now we don't monetize our work, but what it does is it helps the algorithm grow. यानी the more the subscribers, the more widely will the message be spread. So if your subscription leads to more people hearing good content, ये आपका सदका जारिया है. And here's the good part. Subscribing is absolutely free.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Naseeha Discourse. We have with us a very special guest today, Sheikh Mufti Faraz Adam, all the way from the UK. We're very glad that he's given us this valuable time of his. Sheikh की profile जो है, it's too long for me to go over all the details, but आप समझ लें कि हर वो चीज़ जो कि इंसान Islamic Finance की दुनिया में कर सकता है, शेख ने अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह की है. He has an MBA as well. He has a Master's in Islamic Finance as well. He's doing his PhD in Islamic Finance as well. He has completed his Alamiya degree, and he's also done his Mufti course from Durban. And Sheikh is the founder of a Sharia consultancy advisory firm called Amanah. And he's also on the board of, as Sharia advisor of a Fintech by the name of Facet, and he also provides consultancy services to multiple clients in multiple countries in the world. So with that very, very squeezed introduction, we welcome Sheikh. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your valuable insights, inshallah. So Sheikh, the first question I wanted to ask you, we typically start off with asking our guests as to what their journey with regards to Islam and with regards to Deen was. Did you come from a family of ulama? Did you have a realization at some point that you need to get into this space, or was it a gradual journey? What was your educational journey like? What was your spiritual journey like? So if you can just share those details.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakallah khair for inviting me. It's a privilege and an honor to be here with you, and I'm really impressed by your setup and all the good things I've heard about yourself. So it's an inspiration for myself. I mean, my journey was, I was a normal teenager like any other teenager. There's no scholar or alim in my family. It was just something, I guess, the du'as of my parents and the place where I lived. Naturally, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts these thoughts into your heart. And I got this desire and passion that I want to study ilm. This is the path I want to go. And then I was 16 years old. I went college, but I wasn't getting that satisfaction. I wanted to do something else. And then I studied in a local institute in Leicester. I did the Alamiya program. It was in the second year when we were doing Fiqh. You know, you're reading about Salah, Tahara, Hajj. It's all okay. You can understand all of this. Then we saw Quduri and you go to Kitab al-Buyur. And you think, what is this? Ye kya cheez hai? Just like, you don't understand. And it was difficult. All of Tullab al-Ilm know, when you start reading Kitab al-Buyur and the Book of Transactions, it's very difficult for students to understand what's actually happening. The examples and everything that's being discussed, you can't connect it to, indices. stock market, shares,
Right.
digital assets. Where's the world today and what's this? Why is there such a gap? And that was my curiosity. I wanted to master everything I read. And I wasn't understanding what I was reading. So from the second year, fiqh became my passion, and specifically mu'amalat and transactions. And then I knew from that year that I want to become a mufti. This is what I want to do. And that very particular year, I had the dream of coming to Pakistan to become a mufti,
MashaAllah.
to Karachi. That was my goal. From the UK, I want to come to Pakistan, to Karachi to become a mufti. I think it was the third, fourth year, I even read all the requirements for Darul Karachi, all the examinations and everything that you have to go through to enter. And they have a very strict, maybe just 12 students or something. I was ready for this. But then my parents were really happy for me to come to Karachi, because at that time, it was a different time. So I said, I'm in England, I'm in the UK. I'm going to do work of deen here, inshallah, in the future. Let me do iftar in a place which is in English, and maybe it'll be easier for me to explain the fiqh to people in the language that I learn.
Right.
So my fatwa will be in English. It'll be easier for me. So I then got ta'alluq in connection with Mufti Ibrahim Desai rahimahullah in Durban, who is a student of Mufti Mahmud Hassan Gangohi rahimahullah. And he would come to the UK, and I got that connection with him. Then I went to Durban to do iftar. I completed my iftar there then. And then, as they say, the rest is history.
MashaAllah. A lot of history, mashallah. So we'll talk about some of the things that you've been working on and advising on, inshallah, later on. But my next question would be with regards to this interest in Islamic finance. Over your career, what are sort of the major misconceptions or major issues that you find that the general public has, or ashkalat that they have, questions that they have, or problems that they feel with it, that you've seen come up most often?
See, Islamic finance, it's a means towards an end goal. Riba is a means. Sharia financing is a means. The end goal of every customer is the same. I want a house, I want a car. That's it. Or they'll have a certain need for invoice financing, working capital financing, depending where they are and what they're doing. So everyone's end goal and need is the same. Riba takes you on this way. Sharia takes you on this way. Now, the entire discussion is really in the technicalities. The difference is in the contracts and the technicalities. The end result is, because it's financing by its nature means it's credit being given. Hence, there's typically debt involved. Therefore, there's payments to be paid, installments. So it feels the same, it looks the same. You're going to see a percentage. You're going to see terms and conditions. You're going to see things about late payments. This is because financing is there. Islamic finance is made of two words, Islamic and financing. The problem is with the financing part. This is the real problem. The Islamic part is straightforward. But financing is a separate beast. The haqiqah of financing is something completely different. So today's Islamic financing has all the hallmarks of financing. What does that mean? Deferred payments, always. There is collateral, security, guarantees, always. Typically 3-4 parties involved in Islamic financing. And there's always an asset thrown in the middle just to make it Sharia compliant. So we are trying to fulfill the same need people have in the world in a different means. Islamic finance doesn't mean there'll be something completely different, because you're still living in the world. The world is not a perfect place. Everybody has the need for financing, and therefore we are trying to fulfill their needs just in a Sharia compliant way. But the problem is, now this is the question which you raised, the ishkals that come. Why do people have issues? The issue that people have is, well, why am I paying more?
Right.
Why is the Islamic bank not helping me out here? You're supposed to be Islamic.
Right.
That's true. There is supposed to be a higher level or a better conduct that is expected. That's not the problem of the financing. That's the problem with the behavior. It's actions and activity. The contract is not going to change. That is Sharia compliant. That's why I've written a book called Prophetic Finance and Economics. In there, my entire thesis and discussion is we need to bring the sunnah into our finance. That's why I like to use the word Sharia powered, not Sharia because people think Sharia compliant is just legals. It's a tick box, ho gaya hai, compliant hai. No, it's Sharia powered. Sharia is more than just legalities. Sharia involves akhlaq and the sunnah. Because if you look at the life of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so many hadith, he would give more to the people he done trade with. There's so many famous narrations. So a sahabiya comes, she gives the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam some dates and cucumbers. He gives her gold. What's the value of gold versus dates and cucumbers? He goes and to buy something from the store, and he says, Zin wa arjih. Now weigh, but you give preference to yourself in the weight. I'll pay you more. That's Islamic. That is the sunnah. Now, how Sharia works is, Sharia doesn't enforce ihsan upon us.
Right.
Sharia will say, baseline, everybody must fulfill this, and there's constant targheeb towards ihsan. Because it's not in everybody's capacity to do ihsan. So we can't have a macro system based on ihsan. Because we have to have taysir in the system. Right. But then you as an individual and as a bank or shareholders, it's up to you then, and you should be pushed. Do something from your side. But from a system and governance regulatory perspective, we can't, because there's different people with different needs, necessities, issues, variables. We have to have the lowest common denominator to make an industry flourish and grow. We can't have a very strict industry as well. These are some of the issues that we feel and face in the Islamic finance industry, amongst many other things. Cost. Now, the famous issue as well, it costs so much. The reason why it costs so much is multiple reasons. Capital, the cost of capital. So those of you who have accounting background and know finance, how finance works, there's a cost in deploying that finance to customers, because you have shareholders. You have to return something back to them. And typically in Islamic finance, it's equity that's being injected. It's a greater risk capital. They want a greater share. It's just normal business. How will they be incentivized? Why will they give money to the bank when the risk is higher, the returns are less? So there's a greater premium on the capital given to an Islamic bank,
right,
which now the bank has to fulfill. And that's why the cost is passed on to who? Consumers and customers. So this is part of it, because we can't tap into conventional finance. An Islamic bank can't take financing from a conventional bank. Like even in England, just recently, the central bank, the Bank of England, they launched a liquidity facility for Islamic banks, the alternative liquidity facility.
Right.
Because there was no place to overnight, because a bank has so many requirements based on the Basel Accords, banking law, banking industry, that they have to have tier 1 capital, certain capital types on their balance sheet. They have to fulfill these requirements. If they don't fulfill these requirements, they are infringing their license.
Right.
Now, in that kind of stress, and then to have something for the customer, how do you meet all of these needs? The regulator's telling you something, your license requirements are something, compliance, KYC, AML, all of these issues. So to work and operate in the real world, it's not straightforward. But it'll only grow, and we can only get there when more people participate. More people. And how do we do that? It's through education. Like, yes, it will be challenging. Nobody said it's going to be easy. Yes, you may have to pay more, but it's worth it. In this moment in time, it's worth it, because what you're giving now will unlock 50, 100 years of proper Sharia financing.
Jazakallah khair for a very thorough answer. Hanji, Abad.
Just a question that came up in my mind, because I've worked in finance for most of my career, right? Some of the things that you're mentioning, right, from the way that, at least I understand it, also I think maybe people who work in the banking industry look at it, right? The modern sort of banking concept is it's got Western roots, and it's also got its own colonial history, right? That goes along with the sort of political movements that followed the, for example, the British Empire, the French Empire, etc., in terms of financing being one of the tools that were used, throughout the wars that they sort of serviced as well. How do you sort of look at that from an Ummah perspective, right? Where on one end, we understand that these are forces that are in power right now in a global context, right? It's sort of their paradigm in a socio-political environment. But then from an economic lens as well, for certain people, it almost seems like it's almost defeatist in a way when they see that, okay, we've also got scholars who are kind of using a duct tape over the larger wound, which is that we don't really have our own economic system, right, in the first place. That was taken away from us, stripped away from us through this process over the past, 300-400 years at least. How would you sort of,
So the
address that?
job of a faqih and a scholar is he has one eye on his present and one eye on the future. You have to provide solutions for people in the real world today. If you can't, then there will be a massive void. Like, what is there then? The entire fiqh enterprise is based on providing solutions to real problems that people are facing. Fuqaha and muftis are problem solvers. We have to solve people's problems. We have to give them alternatives now. At the same time, a faqih also thinks about the future. That's why fatwa is a dhawq. They say, even Hazrat Mufti Faraz Adam mentioned this. It's a fiqh and fatwa is you have to have the understanding, the mizaj of Sharia in you. So one is a mizaj of Sharia. At the same time, there's what are these people doing right now? How can we help them? There's a vacuum we have to work within. You cannot get and build. Like, they say Rome wasn't built overnight. I say Medina wasn't built overnight. It's a haqiqah, it's a reality. Everything takes time. If we want to see the system that we're talking about, you have to take step by step. It will not happen overnight. Neither will it be like a click of a finger. We have to start somewhere. We have to engage. We have to show the value add. We have to do our best in the circumstances that we have. Fiqh is always about adapting to your solution, current context. And it's always moving from one to the other. It's dynamic. It's not static. And the way we understand Islam is a very static way. It's black and white. Or it's only this. No, there's continuous progress. That's why me personally, as I expressed in our conversation earlier and I've written in my book, Islamic finance has multiple phases. A level 1, a level 2 and a level 3. I believe the current Islamic finance is fulfilling a major duty, which is saving people from riba. Can you improve? Of course they can. What can't improve? Everything can improve. There's always room for improvement. But at least we're fulfilling the current need that's there. Are there better ways? There could be. But we need more minds, more effort, more people. We have to start from somewhere. And now this is why you talked about Fasa in your introduction. This is one of the reasons that really made me inclined to the co-founders' vision, Muhammad Rafi and Daniel. Like brilliant minds, visionaries. Because in my conversation with them, the first thing that we discussed was, look, this is a blank canvas. If we could rethink Islamic finance, how would it be? They said, look, here's a pen, there's a canvas, now you draw. We'll support you. You tell us. Because there are people out there who want to see something really work. And now you have opportunities, but we have to take the opportunities. If you did not learn accounting and finance in a conventional setup, how would you ever try to create a solution? You have to understand from the starting point. So it's not that this is a problem and we don't have our own paradigm. No, work within the system and try to build. And remember, Islamic finance is for everyone. It's not only for Muslims. This is really important. Like the way we approach this problem is we think we have to live in a different planet for different. And no, the same Muslim and non-Muslim, they both are in need. They're both in need. Doesn't matter your background. We should be able to add value to both people equally. It shouldn't be that the label is catching the people, but the actual value of the product is attracting the people. This is the most important thing. The metric shouldn't be the halal stamp. But of course, you have to differentiate. So it's important. But the really thing that should be differentiating your offerings from everyone else's, what value are you providing to the customer? When you are actually value adding and your service is top and it's not the best of the best, people will not ask you whether you're Sharia compliant or not. People will not say, okay, yeah, well, Islamic finance, this, and the other. There'll be no ishkal, there'll be no questions, no objections, because they feel the value. And this is what's missing. It's not that we have less, Sharia compliant products. We have alhamdulillah many. But it's just that added layer. Are we really transforming? Are we really adding value? Do they actually feel that, why are you an Apple? Like many people have Apple. If you ask them, why do you have Apple? They'll say, first, second answer will be what? Customer service. Anything I need, touch of a button is there. Well, we've all experienced it. This is what's needed. Islam was all about serving people. economically, socially, spiritually, whichever way. But today we're serving ourselves. We were producers once upon a time. We become consumers. The Islamic system was a productive system. Riba is a consumption-based system. Our entire mindset has changed. We've lost the way of the Sunnah, adopted other than the Sunnah. So that's why whatever we do is not productive. It's always counterintuitive. It's always countering our own efforts. We never seem to have any solution. It's because we're looking in the wrong place.
आपने बड़ा ज़बरदस्त एक जुमला कहा कि फ़कीह जो है उसकी एक नज़र हाल में है और एक जो है वो मुस्तक़बिल पे है. तो थोड़ा सा मैं हाल की तरफ वापस आऊँगा. आई वांट टू ask you to shed some light on some of the questions that we find people asking from a conceptual perspective, very frequently. And I've come across this question very, very frequently. Is ke interest ki hurmat, riba ki hurmat itself goes back to a time and place where currency is in the form of precious metals, which do not suffer a degradation in value over time. So inflation nahi hai. मेरा जो आज सिक्का है वो 100 साल बाद भी उतना ही वैल्यूबल होएगा. जबकि पाकिस्तान के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ख़ास तौर पे जब आपकी डबल डिजिट इन्फ्लेशन है, पिछले कुछ सालों में 20% तक थी, तो एक बंदा कहता है कि नहीं, मैं रिबा इसलिए नहीं चाह रहा कि मेरा माल जो है वो किसी के एक्सपेंस पे बढ़े, मगर मैं ये भी नहीं चाह रहा कि मैंने जो हलाल जमा पूंजी इकट्ठी की है इतनी मेहनत करके वो वक्त के साथ साथ डिग्रेड होती जाए. आई डोंट वांट द टाइम वैल्यू ऑफ मनी टू बी ईटन अवे विद द इन्फ्लेशन. सो how would you respond to this sort of conceptual thought process about the place of riba and the hurmat of riba in a different time and place?
It's a very good question. The problem isn't with the Shari'i understanding of riba. The problem is with the tool that we have, the currencies that we have today, right? That's where the problem is. So these are by design, they're inflationary.
Right.
Sharia came with a system of telling us what optimal money is. We've moved away from the guidance of Sharia holistically. In that system, the gold would be, as you just mentioned, fine, 100 years, keep it. That's why do you think gold is so powerful? And it was so powerful. If we understand the currency problem, perhaps Islamic finance would be resolved as well. Now let me explain why. Gold, in those times, if I had excess gold, what use is it at home? There's a risk. If I kept gold at home, the physical bars, there could be theft. It can be misplaced. Something can happen. The children can go play with, pick it up and run around in the garden, throw it somewhere. Then what? So I rather, instead of me keeping the gold at home, let me give it as a loan to somebody. When I've lent it to somebody, it becomes madmoon and guaranteed. That person has to pay it back to me. And at the same time, I have no fear because there's no inflation. It'll retain its value and it'll be in the market. Also, the market at that time in Medina, because everybody was naturally charitable, if there was default, the risk of default was very low because hawala was dominant. You could always find somebody else who could come in and say, don't worry, I'll pay the creditor. So the market was very liquid, the instrument was very powerful and optimal, and there was a trust amongst one another. And not only that, people's word and identity was everything. Your KYC and AML was your face. Your word was everything. If you say you're going to pay, you'll do anything to pay. Even the non-Muslim at the time, as we know Abu Sufyan, he could not lie before he accepted Islam. That's how much the word meant. Your izzah, your ird, your honor was everything. So when you have all these things together, now if you think about it, if we had gold today, how it would change. Like the reason why we have all these products, the reason why Islamic banks don't finance, don't give a loan, interest-free loan, is because they're losing money. In real terms, they're losing money. There's a loss. Time value of money is a real thing. It's not discarded. Sharia recognizes this. That's why in the fiqh of riba, time, they say is shibhul mabi'. It has a shibah of mabi'. Time. So riba, absolutely, in that time, the commodities that we had, the hadith that talks about the 6 commodities of riba, all of these could be used as a medium of exchange. And riba is in these real assets. That's why there's also a discussion perhaps on a different podcast. But does the illah of riba apply to currencies today? The fuqaha and the scholars know this discussion well. Right? Of course, our ulama and mufti and I've said, of course, Imam Abu Yusuf's qawl, and if we didn't think about this properly, then the bab of riba would be open. So there's a lot of debate and discussion on this, why we've thought of currencies which are adadiyat, countables. They're not makilat, mawzunat. Yet we've conceptualized riba here to save from the greater potential harms that can happen in society. So coming back to the original question of inflation, my answer is we have to find a solution now. The faqih has to find a solution. What's the solution? Don't lend in fiat then. Use something else. Use gold. It's an option. Buy gold, give gold. And it's not the value then, but the weight. I've given you 1 kilo, give me 1 kilo of gold back. That's it. That's the proper solution from the classical way. So faqih always has to think of solutions. That's our job.
सही उसकी थोड़ी large scale practicality पे बात करनी पड़ेगी.
That's why we have Web3 now. Then tokenized gold.
सही.
That's it. That's the solution.
सही.
And Facet, I'll just let me plug Facet in here. That's what we're trying to do with Facet.
Yeah. So one other question that comes up very frequently. I know you'd rather be discussing things like Web3, but we'll take you.
No, I like anything and everything.
In a little while. एक question जो अक्सर आता है ना वो with regards to some sort of misconception and confusion between zakat and taxes. So एक तो ये conceptually, is zakat a tax? Because sometimes it's translated as poor tax, right? And if the government is already taxing me on my salary at 35% and then double taxing me when I go to buy something, then why is Islam not giving me leeway in the Islamic tax to cater for all the other taxes that I'm already having to pay? Is it jais for the government to tax me like this in the first place? And if they're already doing it, then shouldn't the Sharia give me some leeway in my zakat? And these are sort of questions that we get pretty frequently.
It's a very good question. So zakat from a Sharia perspective, it's ibadah khalisa. Like our fiqh describes zakat as ibadah khalisa, which means it's 100% ibadah. There's no mu'na. There's no burden, there's no difficulty, nothing. Zakah is a very easy form of ibadah. Perhaps we're not calculating correctly or we've not understood it correctly. That's why it feels like a burden. Why? Because look, the scholars mention, like Imam Kasani has mentioned, Muhitul Burhani discusses, Zakah wajibat bi tariq al-taysir. Zakah is based on taysir. How? Zakah is only on certain assets, what we call amwal namiyah. Only certain. The asal is there is no zakat unless it's mal nami, which means there's 3 types of assets which are zakatable. Your cash, your business stock, and animals, sa'ima, which you have to increase the units. So anything you buy designed for exchange and increase purposes, where there'll be profit, that's where there's zakat. Secondly, the idea of zakat is really that you pay from the profits. You'll pay on the whole amount when you're calculating, but the zakat will be taken out from the appreciation and the profits. That's why you have 1 year. Zakat is paid after 1 year. Really, zakat should have been paid the moment you had the nisab, which is iniqad. In fiqh, what they call iniqad. Zakat should have been paid then. But because zakat is wajibat bi tariq al-taysir, zakat is meant to be easy, the Sharia has given you 1 year to invest the capital so you can get profits, and you pay 2.5% from the profits, not from your capital. Sharia doesn't want you to lose wealth, but he wants you to give just shave off a bit from the profits and give it to the people. That's it. It's so easy. Likewise, it's only 2.5%. Similarly, we know the ruling in the Hanafi madhab, you can deduct debts. So if you got a tax, you can deduct that from your zakat calculation. Tax is a proper debt. There's 2 types of debt. Those duyun which are duyun min Allah and those duyun min al-ibad. You can deduct this. Absolutely. There's a mutalaba up here. You can deduct that. So there's so much taysir in zakat. So if you are feeling that it's a burden for some reason, I would say learn it properly and you'll realize that maybe you are over calculating. Maybe you are paying something wrong, and that's why it feels, or maybe you're not deducting the debts, which you have the possibility to do so, and that's why it feels like a burden. The tax is a debt you can deduct.
सही जज़ाकल्लाह खैर. So आपने एक mention की थी बात with regards to the first and second and third stage of the Islamic financial system that you and others are trying to build as well. So उसमें जो आप first stage जिस पे currently आपने कहा हम हैं उसकी आप बात कर रहे थे, and Hamis also mentioned a word basically duct tape, patchworking a problem. So इसमें consumer को अक्सर ये feel होता है कि you're achieving exactly the same goal of the rich getting richer and the poor getting exploited with the Islamic finance products that are in the market as you do with conventional products. तो फिर लेटर ऑफ द लॉ पे तो आपने शायद अमल कर लिया, मगर स्पिरिट पे अगर आपने नहीं अमल किया तो उसका फिर फ़ायदा कोई है भी कि नहीं है. एंड अनलेस वी गेट टू दैट हायर लेवल, इज़ इट इवन वर्थ having this lower stage, and does it actually provide any tangible benefit to society?
Yes, it's a very good question. See, there are different types of ahkam in Sharia. Some ahkam are very obvious and understood. For instance, don't kill yourself. Suicide. Nobody needs to explain the wisdom of that. Muslim, non-Muslim will understand straight away. So no one will jump out the window right now. You don't need a Shari'i hukum for that, but you know its problem. Some ahkam, the benefit is also very obvious, right? Like nikah, very obvious. It's even if you're not Muslim, you'll have a partner. But just Islam will tell you a way to do it properly, which has its rails and safeguards for you. Some ahkam are obscure. They're not so clear. Riba, it comes from them. It's one of the most khufya, makhfi, hidden kind of ideas. Even Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh commented on this, that only if the Messenger of Allah he told us more about riba. It's one of the, Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, he writes in his Ihya that he spent his life only when he left fiqh and went in the jungles, and he was doing muraqabah and all of this, did he understand more about riba. That's when it all opened up to him. So riba is very difficult to understand. Now coming back to the actual question after this kind of like a introductory point, the issue at hand is this. When we talk about spirit of the law, I always ask people, where do we learn the spirit from? What is the spirit? Do we have a separate code book which says the spirit of the Quran and this is the letter of the Quran? No, we don't. The spirit is just, you could say, extractions and deductions from people's minds.
Okay.
Hikam are purely just that, wisdoms. We feel and we think this is the thing. But the letter of the law and the Sharia and the Sharia, this is nas, it's mansus. It's impossible that you're following the nas and you're going to a harmful place. Impossible. Yes, in the short term, it might not make sense what's happening. But maybe then what you're doing, you're not following the nas properly itself. So it's not about the spirit. The letter, the way the letter is, in its own kind of explanation, are we doing that properly or not? Fiqh, and this is where usul al-ifta comes into place. Rasul Mufti. The world is, as I mentioned earlier, it's an imperfect place. There's so many variables at play. But the Sharia always has ahkam. So for instance, if there was all impurity here on the floor right now, will the hukam be there's no salah? There'll be a way to perform salah still.
Right.
But it's not perfect. Right? You are flying on an aeroplane. You can't sit down. You can't stand up and perform salah. The fuqaha will still tell you away. You don't have water, which is asal. What do you do now? So in every circumstance, regardless of how problematic the situation, or there's a lady, we know how in Sharia the discussions about awrah, but she needs treatment done, which is necessary, and there's a male doctor. Even in that situation, there's guidance on how to fulfill that and achieve the necessity that you have and fulfill it. So Sharia is very practical. It's not just this utopian idea that it has to be like this, otherwise it's not valid. Excuse me, right? It has to be, there's practicality in Sharia, practicality. So in every circumstance, regardless of your environment, we have a baseline to fulfill. We have something that we need to do. Why is that the case? You have to start from somewhere. The world, as we mentioned earlier, Rome was not built overnight. And just look at the seerah. How long did it take for the Messenger of Allah to even do hijrah to Medina Munawwara? 13 years. Why? Allah could have said to him day one, go to Medina and set up your country or whatever. Set it up there. Go. But why was there 13 years of torment? All these answers, all these questions are being raised have already been answered in the seerah. If we think through the seerah, why was it 3 years of private da'wah? Any entrepreneur, any businessman that wants to launch something today, look at the sunnah and the seerah. It's strategic. Private da'wah. You create your angel investors. If you think about it as entrepreneurship, get your family, your bootstrapping. First was bootstrap. Then you get your angel investors, buy into your vision and mission. That's why he went to his household. He told his our beloved mother, Sayyidah Khadija al-Anha, Sayyidina Ali, then his friend, companion, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, all these people, close people, they were in already. They were sold. Then you get your private 30, 40, your private people. After that, فَاسْدَعْ بِمَا تُؤْمَرْ. After that, now proclaim. After 2-3 years, proclaim now. And now everything started. But this stage by stage. Still so many problems. The Muslims are being beaten and tormented. Yet from Allah, no. Why is this tarbiyah? Anyone who's a founder of a company will know the challenges, the difficulties. Nothing is built immediately. But when it is built, the S-curve, when it hits, that's when it just, you go all out. And that's when everything comes in. That's why إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ then الفتح. وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. That's what happens, that moment comes. But that anyone in business knows, to get to that S-curve, that point, exponential growth, those 2, 3, 5, 10 years of sweat are tiring, they're scary, they're traumatic, sleepless nights, difficult, hard conversations. Sometimes you think, what am I doing? Is this even worth it? You look in the mirror and question yourself. But then afterwards, it all makes sense. You find your feet and the doors open up. It's exactly what the seerah tells us. The thing is, we don't look at the seerah today. But the seerah is so beautiful, whichever problem you approach the seerah with, you'll find an answer. An entrepreneur, he looks at the seerah, he'll find guidance in his life. Like the Quran. This is a living miracle of the Quran and the Sunnah. If you approach it as a scholar, you'll find answers for your field as a scholar. If you are an entrepreneur, you'll find answers to your entrepreneurship in the Quran and Sunnah. So that's why these things take time naturally. There's no quick win here. The world is a very complicated place. To build something which is meaningful, which lasts over centuries and decades, requires a lot of time. What you build must have robustness. And that doesn't happen immediately. So yes, we're on a journey. Yes, we're on level 1 of Islamic finance. But that's okay. The most important thing about how do we then understand this? How do we convey this to people? I tell my friends, colleagues, what you need to do is have a 100-year roadmap. Tell people by 2100, the 22nd century, this is how Islamic finance must look. You paint an entire vision, an entire ecosystem, the system which you were talking about. You'll have zakat institutions, you'll have awqaf institutions, you'll have microfinancing, you'll have Islamic financing. The currency will be like this. This is how everything will operate. You'll have this kind of digital kind of like platforms. You paint an entire picture. Then you build milestones. If that's 100 years, what does it look like 90 years? 80 years, 70 years, 60 years, 50 years, until your present time. Now you have milestones. So practically you have metrics and you have like points. I must have achieved this, or we as a community must have achieved this. Now, how does this work? You need every stakeholder in the industry to come around one table. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. To meet our Ru'ya, the Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia. It's like that. They've got a vision, now they're working towards our vision. Why don't we have a vision for the Ummah, for the industry that we work in? I've not seen anybody articulate a 100-year vision for Islamic finance. How can you do any project in life without a vision? Every company that exists has a vision and mission. If a company which is small has a vision and mission, an entire industry needs a vision and mission. An industry is bigger than the company. It's a sum of its parts. So we as stakeholders need a vision for the industry, the key players. If we want Islamic finance to achieve, to grow, this is what we need to do. Secondly, after you've created this roadmap, you need to tell the market and the consumers, look, this is where we are here right now. We are charging this much. The fees are like this. We know it's not favorable. But if we hit 50,000 customers, we can drop our fees like this. And in 10 years' time, this is what the fee structure will look like. All else being equal, no COVID, no nothing like this, this is what we hope to achieve. If you make them part of the story, they will be with you on that journey. If you make them part of the story, they'll be with you on the journey. The problem is we don't communicate. That's why my dear friend and colleague Saad, who's a marketing specialist, he's always telling you about narrate stories, tell stories to people. That's the number one way to bring users with you. So think of the customers and consumers the same. They are also participants, members. We have to express to them, make them believe with us. What's happening today, the people in Islamic finance believe, and the people in Islamic finance who are just customers, they don't believe. They're just being told because they feel guilty. Or they feel like, yeah, you know what, a safe option. They have to believe that this is the best option and only option. If we haven't convinced them, we failed.
SubhanAllah. I think I'll take this conversation into a slightly different direction now. This is probably going to be, for our audience especially, I think some of the more spicier questions, I'd say. So I'm just going to start out, right?
Pakistani spicy. The food is very spicy.
Yeah. Something like that, right? Especially for the youth, I think. One of the most common questions that comes up, right? Especially because I recently joined a Web3 organization and a lot of people, come to me with this. Is cryptocurrency halal, right? And I'll just add on a little bit of context. With most people who are asking this question, they don't really have a deeper understanding of what cryptocurrency even means, like the term in itself, because it's such a blanket, abstract term. It could, range from a lot of different ideas. And then more specifically from my interactions with them, what I've come to realize is a lot of the times they're asking about trading. And within just even conventional trading, they don't understand the difference between spot and futures, right? So if you could just elaborate on all of these, I think it'd be really helpful.
Yeah, so this is a different, one whole podcast in itself, right? But look, I would start off with the word cryptocurrency is a problem. It's not the right term. These are digital assets as a broad term. Currency has a very specific meaning in people's minds. Majority of digital assets don't function as currencies. We know that. But yes, some of them, something to be used as a medium of exchange doesn't have to be a currency. Anything can be used as a medium of exchange. If I come to your shop and offer gold to you to buy something that you're selling, and you accept it as the medium of exchange, but it's not a currency. Or I offer my phone to you, you can accept it. Or I have British pounds with me. I don't have any rupees with me. I say, look, I'll pay you in 10 pounds. It's not the currency of the land. But you can accept it if you want.
I'd love to. I mean, I think anyone in Pakistan would take any foreign currency without questions asked.
That's the thing. So a medium of exchange can be anything. Now, these digital assets, what is the fundamental debate and discussion among scholars? There's two discussions. One is the intrinsic debate and one is the extrinsic debate. What's intrinsic? Some scholars raise the objection, nothing exists. Kuch hai nahi, haqiqat hai nahi uske. And that's why they say it's just gambling. There's nothing there. Well, if that's the case, then why can I use Ether on Ethereum and pay for gas fees to run a small contract if there's nothing there?
Sheikh, now you've used a lot of words there that most people don't even understand, right? Like gas fee, Ether, and contract. Contract still is something
smart contract.
Yeah, smart contract.
So that's another thing.
Yeah.
So you see, all of these terms, I know I'm throwing a lot at the audience, but my key thing up here is, if nothing was existing, why would there be an output? There can only be an output if there's an input. It's a logical thing. If there's an output, there must be an input. If there's an input, that means something has to exist. It's simple. Not only that, look, what is mal in Sharia? Mal means property. The debate is among scholars is this really mal or not? There's two conditions for anything to be mal, property, legally. ما يميل إليه الطبع ويدخر إلى وقت الحاجة. That's it. People have a value, a utility, and it can be stored. Blockchain is a ledger, is software. Blockchain is not just an Excel sheet, it's a computer. It's software. That's what makes it so exciting. So your digital asset is stored there, the file is stored there, or you have a record to something there, which you can use. So it is iddikhar. It is storage there. As long as something has utility and benefit, it'll be permissible. Nothing else haram, it'll be permissible. And we know the asal in Sharia is hil. Right? Al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. This is the asal in mu'amalat. In mu'amalat, the asal is permissibility. In ibadat is the opposite. And even that mu'amalat, people don't understand, why do we make things so difficult? In mu'amalat, Allah has made it halal, because why is every transactions by default permissible? The purpose is fulfill your needs as quick as possible, as efficiently as possible, so you can focus on the bigger goal of your life. That's the reason. But we make it so difficult for people to earn money, savings, whatever. This way, no, this, you can't do this, that they have to spend 15 hours earning money. And then you tell them to come to the masjid, they won't want to come. Why? Because they're tired. So the way we understand the entire thing is wrong. Mu'amalat is meant to be easy. Create ease for people as much as possible. And let them earn money, happily let them earn money. Once they've earned their money happily, efficiently, then it comes at a level like, hey, now I've done my bit, let me concentrate on better things. When you empower people with in different ways and grant them opportunities, naturally then that person, you'll see his reaction, how he begins to behave. So existence is one of the debates in digital assets. And then it's utility. As long as you have utility, as I mentioned earlier, in any digital asset, then I find it difficult to understand why it'll be impermissible. Some people say, well, there's volatility. That's an extrinsic issue now. Yeah. What is volatility? Like there was a statistic I read in the UK. 90% of startups fail in the first 2 years. So if that's the case, that's the most risky asset, startup investing. Does that mean it's not Sharia compliant? Of course not. Everybody will tell you, as long as the business is halal, the Sharia screening is halal, financials are okay, you can invest. But what about the volatility? It's so risky. So volatility, risk is an extrinsic discussion. Fundamentals is the core. Like what is this adding value? Is it real? Does it have a use case and utility? We will talk about volatility when an investor and trader has only 500,000 rupees and he puts all 500,000 rupees in that, whilst he's not fulfilling the huquq of his family, his parents and other people, and he's put all his money in there.
In Bitcoin.
This is the problem. That's when you'll say what you've done is wrong. That's your amal. It's wrong. Your action is wrong. It's not the fault of the volatility. And of course, there's manipulation, leverage. Like if you look at what's happened recently in the markets, how there was a complete bloodbath. How much billions are wiped from the markets. Why? Because of over leverage and everything else. The meme coins, it's impacted the whole industry.
I think even the President Trump launched a meme coin as well, right?
Even his meme coin, like you saw what happened to it, right?
Pump and dump, basically.
So all these factors, which the Sharia doesn't permit anyway, has an impact and bearing. So we have to analyze and understand what is the problem and what is not a Sharia issue. These are extrinsic issues because of people's activity. Then we will say to the market, these activities are Sharia compliant. We have to create a governance framework. That's why I'm so happy that you might have read on the news that the Pakistan government have taken a very decision of having this crypto council. That regulation will help so much. And then you'll start seeing the fatwa, how they begin to now adopt and create framework, a Sharia framework. But really, we should be the ones leading the conversation. Why does it take 10 years for us to understand this? We have to be the ones thinking like our fuqaha, the Hanafi fuqaha, what were they so good at? Tell me. What were they so good compared to the other madaris of fiqh? Our fuqaha what?
Speculative.
Yeah.
Fiqh, basically.
They would think about forward thinking. They would have answers to problems which nobody has even heard of.
Yeah.
It's not even happened yet. And they were thinking, what if a person performs salah on Mars? What if there was no, like, I remember reading a mas'ala in fiqh, what if there was no Kaaba? What does the person do? Like, that's not even happened. But this is what you call, like, geniuses. They were so, like, forward thinking. And what are we doing? We're the reverse. We still haven't resolved Masail of 50 years old. We're still debating them today. It's the truth. But we don't have time to think. Fiqh is all about thinking. The beauty of fiqh, like the joy in fiqh, is when you have these detailed conversations of things which haven't occurred, and you sit and think, okay, what are the ma'ani and the ilal up here? How do we understand this masala today? What happens if this happens? What if a Muslim goes to the International Space Station and he's there, he's in Ramadan, he's going 16 times around the earth. What does he do? Like, which mufti has an answer to this? That's our fault. Why are we not thinking like that? And this is one example. Think about artificial intelligence now.
Yeah.
Who has any guidance for artificial intelligence? Because the world is using it. Everyone's going to adopt it. But who is there saying, look, this is what's required, this is what's needed, this is how to use it properly, these are what we should be doing. One is creating frameworks for proper use. One is innovating in the space. We have to get the ummah back on production. We have to be producers. Why? What does the hadith tell us? Al-yadul ulya khayru min al-yadis sufla. What does that mean? That the upper hand, we've all heard this hadith, the upper hand is better than the lower hand. But what does that signify? The upper hand is the one that produces. The lower one is the one that's consuming. The entire Islamic economic system is a production-based system. Why? Because our system is based on trade. وَحَلَّ الْبَيْعِ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. And trade is mutual exchange, mutual benefit. And that's productive. Whereas riba is consumption-based. It saps and seeks and takes away value. So we have to, there's a work that needs to take place amongst everybody. We have to awaken our minds. And that starts with working hard. Having a work ethic. Why are we sleeping 10 hours a day? Like, these small things matter. Honestly, we've become lazy. Like, the real people who really want to change the world, the change makers, they wake up 4 o'clock in the morning every day. That's where things happen. Nobody has made it big in the world without sacrificing sleep. Yeah, unless your father was a billionaire. Right? But those are few and far between. But if you want to make it big, sit with any founder and ask him, what time do you wake up? What time do you sleep? How's your life? When's the last time you went on a holiday? Ask them. In the first few years, they'll tell you. Because life is like this. We don't work hard. We want the best results. We want the most. We complain the most as well. But we're the laziest. And this is it's a pandemic or epidemic. It's an issue. Everywhere in the world we have this. Whereas the Sharia, the Sunnah, is telling us something completely different. The person was always awake. What time would he wake up? What would he do? How would they work? They worked hard. So we need to revive this it's entrepreneurship. Not just to make money, but for your own self. The greatest investment is in yourself. You need to be concerned with your output more than anything. You have to make people so obsessed with productivity, with their self-growth, obsessed with their own betterment, obsessed with comparing themselves of today with yesterday. The muhasabah that we talk about. Become obsessed with that growth mindset. That's when imagine you have 2 billion Muslims with this mindset. Forget 2 billion. Just look at Lahore. What's the population in Lahore?
200 million?
200 million?
That's Pakistan. Like in Lahore alone.
That's
10 million.
That's 15 ki Muslims.
Let's just take 10 million. And that 10 million we worked on. If that's too much, just take 1,000. Right? Just make it easy. 1,000. Who become firm. That this is who we are. We're entrepreneurs. We want to make products that solve problems for real people. It's not just about giving dawah, but build solutions. Build products. Build things which makes people's lives easy for them. Show them the way. Become a leader. I promise you the world will come to you and take benefit from you. You'll become a role model. It's a very easy way to influence the world. Why are all these tech companies high? They don't have no magic spell in the background. The only thing they've done is they've worked so hard and they've built products. They've put in the time, effort and sweat. They've built products that actually solve problems, real problems. And the whole world had a need for that solution. And they've adopted it. It's as simple as that. And we can't. This is where our failure is. Why? Because we're lazy. We became content as people. Whereas our guidance is all about night and day working hard. Have a work ethic. So this is the solution. This is the start to resolving the greater problem. All these things that we talked about so far in the last 1 hour, it starts from here. It starts from this and this. This is where the effort is required. I have to fix myself. You have to fix yourself. And then we have to tell each other we need to fix ourselves and become serious. We don't have time. We don't have luxury to relax. Like, we got to forget the Dubai holidays. We got to forget all these, all these luxury holidays, Maldives or Mauritius. Yeah, once in a while is okay. But it should be strategic. Be very strategic in your life.
हमारे यहाँ जैसे कि आपने कहा ना एक तो लेजीनेस और फिर एक गेट रिच क्विक वाला स्कीम है क्रिप्टो के हवाले से भी ना एवरीबडी इज आस्किंग वेदर इट्स हलाल और नॉट बिकॉज दे जस्ट वांट कि मेरा 1,000 रुपया जो है ना कल तक 10,000 बन जाए. So with that, I'll ask you one last question before we finish. तो Dogecoin में कितने पैसे डालने चाहिए?
Oh, good. Dogecoin is a very interesting one. And this is something at Facet. So at Facet, we have a very strict Sharia kind of framework. I'm obviously responsible for this, so my neck is on the line. And my thing is, as long as we do and Facet works, inshallah, we'll never let anything impermissible come on the platform. Like,
Inshallah.
I failed as a person. It's my responsibility. I failed. I take that personally. I'm accountable in front of Allah. I'm not accountable in front of just the management or anybody else. It's Allah. That's like, forget everything else. But then the team also has the same belief. We failed if we can't give, because we see halal not as halal, value adding. If we can't give value to our users, we failed. Because haram it's not value. That's destruction for them. It's not beneficial for our users. We believe that. So the way we shape our culture in our organization is understanding what halal is truly about. It's not just a tick. No. The asset is halal, which means actually value adding for you. It's not going to go up and down crazy. So you're not going to lose your money. You're not gambling. You're not doing any of that. You'll earn money ethically, properly. And it's productive. It's having some impact. It's a business. It's doing something. Like, we have tokenized stocks as a product. So even the stocks and companies that we select, very selective, we do the full Sharia screening as an example. So Dogecoin was one of those. All these years that Doge has been around, no. We have a policy, no meme coins. Because meme coins. What are they? Just these, feel-good coins. But there's no utility, no use case. My dear colleague, Saad, was telling me some statistics on meme coins. How majority of people, they don't make money at all from meme coins. Majority of people. And so if that's the reality, what is it? It has no utility. That's why there's nothing driving it, no fundamentals. It's just about this, I'll make money from you, and you'll make money from me. And until it goes on, then once it hits a peak, nobody makes money from anybody then. Everybody loses. That's the philosophy of these meme coins. So with Doge specifically, we've had so many debates, because the way I personally like to work is, so what if I've studied Sharia? So what? You are intelligent. I respect your intelligence. You challenge me. If I say something is not Sharia compliant, I should be able to express and explain it in simple English or in Urdu and any language for you to understand my reasoning. If I can't explain it to you, I've not understood it. This is how I like to approach fiqh. Because fiqh has to be explained like that. That means I've truly understood it. I can't tell people, I'm Mufti, you have to follow my view. No, that's not good enough. I can't hide behind titles. I have to be able to explain it properly. So with Doge, we had this back and forth in the team. That some of our colleagues were saying, no, there's some use cases, utility in this. It's not like other meme coins. It's different.
Sure.
And so I went back and I looked at it. No, I was still not convinced. And then I said, look, your job, if you prove it to me, you show me the use cases. So they showed me the very low transaction fees and transacting fees. Certain charities accept it. Certain organizations in the world accept it, or they were planning to accept it. There's a lot of conversation there. So they gave me a whole list. I said, this is a real utility. Having low transaction fees to just be able to transact across the world is a real thing. People want that. People hate paying transaction fees. I said, that's a valid use case. So if I want to send money from here to there, and I look at different digital assets, this one, Dogecoin, perhaps give me one of the lowest transacting fees. So I could use that to do a remittance. That's a valid use case. Yeah, and there's these charities and these shops who have said they want to use Dogecoin. So in Sharia, something can be mal, halan or ma'alan. The fuqaha talk about. The classical fiqh is an example of things that might not be mal right now, but can be mal later on. For instance, the classical fuqaha mentioned a small horse. In Arabic, it's called a muhr, right? It has no utility right now. Nobody can use it for anything. It's such a baby, just been born. But they deem that to be ma'alan, that tomorrow it'll be useful. And they class that as mal, you can trade it, that means. So I had the same thinking with this Dogecoin. That with all these companies now saying we want to accept and start using it, and it has low transacting fees, definitely there's going to be utility sooner or later. If it's not got utility already to the transacting fees. And that's why I felt that I changed my personal position, that for this one I make an exception. My personal view then changed for Doge.
Right.
And that's because we had a very big debate in the team. And everybody was like, Sheikh, how can you think about this? But this is really good. Because when you have different experts around the table, what was the majlis of Abu Hanifa? A majlis of experts of different backgrounds. These fuqaha, what would they do? They would go to the markets and talk with the traders. You will have to get insights from the industry experts, from lawyers, accountants, bankers, entrepreneurs, Web3 experts, marketing experts. Everybody has a say. Everyone's say is valuable. We have to get all that input. It's all data. Understand what they're saying and then look at the Sharia problem. And so that's what we did. And that's why we still, till this day, we do this. And I would say this to every Islamic financial institution out there. Engage your staff. Because as scholars who are in the Sharia thing, we might have a fatwa, but 50% of the staff won't understand why. And they are the ones tomorrow that become, heartbroken or upset with the system and say, look, I worked in the Islamic bank for 20 years. I've seen it all. This is what they do. Why? Because we never made them mizaj in the first place. We never explained to them what we're doing. Communication is so important. No, we are taking our team, the scholars, I'm addressing and humbly talking to the scholars here and those working in the Islamic finance industry, that we are taking the people on a journey. What we understand from the Quran and Sunnah, this real conversation, this patchwork conversation that we had, we can understand from the fiqh why it's happening. But in those times, nobody would question a scholar. Nobody had a social media platform. Because the only platform was the mimbar. And only the qualified by the government can go and sit on the mimbar and talk. The only time you can have influence is in your house with your wife. And nobody's going to ask there. Nobody's going to know. That's your only influence. As a lay person, that was your influence. Today the world has changed. Today a person has no ilm, but he has 500,000 followers. He has 2 million followers on TikTok. And he sits there scrolling, making videos. And he says, yeah, Islamic banking is all haram. Or Islamic finance is all haram. And that gets 500,000 views. The amount of time it takes and effort that is expended to rebut what I call, mind my language, BS. Yeah? You say the rubbish, right? The amount of effort that takes into just confronting that. You have to put 10 times effort than just explaining something. So much time is wasted in explaining simple concepts. And that's where did that problem start from? Is because we never made the people in the industry understand in the first place. And we need to work with them. It's not me teaching them or preaching to them. We can't preach. Preaching is not the way. We have to take them with us and understand conversation. Say, look, and make them part of the journey. And I believe this is how we address these problems. There's so many things we have to do. And I've given so many different ideas here. But that's the world that we live in today.
Sheikh, Jazakallah Khair. I think personally I found this conversation very enlightening and broadened my horizons about quite a few things.
Alhamdulillah.
So inshallah we'll keep in touch with you and bother you with follow-up questions.
Absolutely.
And some thoughts as well. But Jazakallah Khair for giving your time late night after Taraweeh. And may Allah bless the work that you're doing and make it a means for us to get up the ladder on these stages, inshallah, and make a Islamic financial system that's more equitable, more beneficial for everybody, and to take us along and our listeners along on the journey, inshallah.
This can only happen in Pakistan. In England, everybody's sleeping. They say, what happens in Pakistan stays in Pakistan.
Jazakallah Khair, Sheikh. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.